Good afternoon. Good to see some familiar faces here. Not too far of a trip up from Ulster County. I took the liberty to invite a good friend of mine, Jim Hansen, as Laurel mentioned, from the Town of Woodstock Environmental Commission, who you'll hear from. And so we're going to tag team this a little bit because the county level and the county perspective and the department that I work in is much broader. It's a big county. But then I was hoping, it sounded like there was a lot of municipal folks here. And so what I found in doing this for a year or two now is that to hear from the people that are the same, like when you're talking to highway guys, they really trust and want to and really value more what highway guys say. And so I think it's interesting to have, I think it's interesting and important to have more of a county level, a larger perspective, but then also the town level. And quite honestly, in this case, a lot more has gotten done at the town level than the county level. And if you have questions, feel free to just raise your hand, and you don't have to hold them to the end. So sort of the overview here is I wanted to introduce you to the Emerald Ash Borer Task Force, which is something that a lot of are popping up throughout the state now. We have one in Ulster County, which is why I'm standing up here, and the different relationships that task force has with other entities and can be built through the task forces. We heard Mark Whitmore talk about that this morning and the importance of the task forces, and so that really is key. And to remain committed to those, that's where you get your frontline information, and the best way to get it out is through is after the task force meeting. Take that back. A real quick overview of the community level ash street tree inventories that were done through PRISM, and I'll explain that in a minute, what that is, which I didn't participate in, but it's one of the reasons that Ulster County saw the need to get involved, or the importance of getting involved. And then an in-depth look really at the town of Woodstock. They've been sort of a model, especially in Ulster County, but I think even throughout the state, what's been accomplished there. And then more of a broad look at sort of the county level initiatives, things that are spinning in my head, and trying to edge my way into different departments and things like that at the county level. And then looking ahead, of course. What we're not going to talk about is things that you've heard a lot about this morning on the preparedness plans and preparedness for communities. So you've gotten all that. Ulster County is a little bit different. We were hit pretty hard with it right away, and it's been in Ulster County for a while. And so it's a little bit different. It's more of a triage and figure out where to start. So here's the PRISM map. And so here's roughly Ulster County. Actually, it's shifted somehow. It's a little higher. I don't know, something happened here. But so Ulster County's up here. But the point is that it's split between the lower Hudson PRISM, which is just starting to get off the ground, and thankfully the Catskill Regional Invasive Species Partnership has been around for a number of years and actually have the wherewithal and funding in place and a strategic plan. And we were able to, without that component, we wouldn't be standing here today. We'd be trying to figure it all out, like as many of you are in the room here, just started getting ready for the work that needs to be done. This map, how many of you have seen this map before? This is the DEC risk map. And so this, Mark and Jim showed the sort of the statewide pictures of this. This is zoomed in right on this core area here in Ulster County. So this blue is the Hudson River, and then this yellow outline is the northeast corner of Ulster County, and you can see that 2/3 of this area where the infestation is heaviest is within Ulster County. Already 12 of the 24 municipalities it's been confirmed in, and then this 6 additional are in these outer bands here where we know it's there. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but it's just a matter of time. So, actually, I want us to do this one first. I'm the Deputy Coordinator for the Ulster County Department of the Environment, which is, I like to think, kind of a cutting-edge department for a county to have. There's an amazing staff of 3 people. And it was formed in 2009, and we're not regulatory, we coordinate. And I think that's an important piece here, because we're not regulatory, and we work with the other departments, DPWs and plannings and health and all these other components of county government. And we also provide a lot of resources. We're sort of a sister to the County Environmental Management Council, which is representatives from the different environmental commissions, like Jim is, for the municipalities. And so we provide resources to local municipalities. So there's 24 of those in the county. I don't know, maybe 18 of those actually have environmental commissions. And so we provide mapping and technical support and expertise and ideas and convene them. Like tonight there's a meeting at our office for them. And so it's important. It's an important department for getting information out and keeping tabs and keeping abreast of all the things that are going on with relation to the environment throughout the county. It's a big county, which I'll touch on that in a second. So how did we get involved here? So from the Department of the Environment, with that mission statement, the Catskill Regional Invasive Species Partnership had started this task. Oh, I skipped. I'm sorry. Here we go. This makes sense. So they had started. Once the emerald ash borer was found in Ulster County, which was in June of 2010, outside of Saugerties. All this process started, and quickly it was about a year later, the need for a task force to work on all these issues was identified, and they hired someone to do that, to coordinate that. And so they involved municipal officials, DEC, of course, ag and markets, anyone that wanted to be involved. Arborists are a big part of the group that meets. And so that worked, and then we decided that, it was decided that there needed to be more input and more involvement from municipal officials, because presentations were made to town boards, but it was in that death curve. You're in the bottom. Nobody notices anything. You don't see anything that's going on. The trees look fine. What do you mean? And so in order to get at that municipal level, we started having discussions with the PRISM, the Catskill Regional Invasive Species Partnership, to formalize that and get the County Department of Environment involved. And so now we've actually done one contract, and we're actually going into, which I'll talk about at the bottom here, going to renew that contract for work in 2014 to continue the importance, that critical piece, that task force, and have that and have some dollars behind it to actually make it happen. We also knew this past year partnered with Cornell Extension of Ulster County. So they have a relationship with Cornell University, and they are really focused on the education and outreach for residents and things like that. And so our department is more municipal level. Cornell Extension, residents, outreach, education, going to fairs, that kind of thing. Any questions so far? Okay. So what got this all started, and what ultimately got Jim involved, as he'll tell you, is these community ash inventories. So once it was detected, CRISPs had put some trainings together to train volunteers to go out and inventory all the ash in the communities. And so they did that. I think there was, what does it say up here? I think there was 20 communities, yeah, and 2, 4, 6 or 7 of them were in Ulster County, and Saugerties and Woodstock were the first communities to be trained. They would go out, and maybe you can talk a little bit more about that process. But that's what got it started. And there's results on CatskillInvasives.com is the website for the Catskill PRISM, the Catskill Region PRISM. There's a lot of, so there's detailed reports and these maps. So for instance, this is the hamlet of Phoenicia, and all these stars are ash trees that were identified. You can see it's not nearly the level that we heard about in the last couple presentations with 60,000 trees or 20,000 spending millions and millions of dollars, but they're there, and ultimately they're going to have to be managed. Pine Hill, so a little bit further west, up near Bel Air Mountain Ski Center. Again, a small hamlet, but a lot of ash in there. And then this is just another map from down in Stone Ridge, so down by the community college. So these maps were done, and reports and summaries are posted on there. So those were the inventories. And that's what got Woodstock involved. I'll turn it over to you. For the inventory. Just forward and back, just right and left.
Okay, Woodstock. I'm on the Environmental Commission, and the Environmental Commission in Woodstock looks at environmental stuff. We try to make sure that environmental issues are dealt with. We're not regulatory, we're advisory in nature. So being advisory in nature, part of what we do is try to keep the knowledge base up there. I also happen to be on a task force that was looking at stewardship issues on a parcel of land we have right in town called the Cuomo property, 76 acres, and we were beginning to really zero in on the stewardship plan. I was worried about some ash trees. I said to the town, call the DEC. The DEC sent out Michael Callan, and Michael Callan is just an absolutely marvelous guy. He's one of the foresters. He came out, we walked the woods, we identified the problem as not being emerald ash borer. However, he said, it's coming, you know, and a little while later he called me and said, look, I found some trees in Xena, positively identified. I'm concerned because of the SLAM project. What we want to do is do preemptive cutting on people's lands. You know, you've got a lot of tree huggers up there in Woodstock. How are we going to do this? And I said, well, the way we're going to do it, I think probably is education. And so I did the first workshop. The fire department I'm a member of is right across from the ash trees where he discovered it. They were on a property of a medical office. I got permission to cut down one of the 5-inch tree, bring it to the firehouse, had a workshop, had people strip it, talked about it, got education. Michael had no problem getting the people signed up for the SLAM project because the education had begun. The Environmental Commission realized then that the education had to continue, and we really needed to push it to get the word out, because the way this beetle was spreading in Woodstock, it was in Xena, the lowlands first, and it was moving slowly out, you know. So we had the worst of it. At the time we discovered that, we thought maybe it was a 2-year-old infestation. It now looks like, with the progression of it, it probably had been there 8 years, because we are in that death curve. And I've seen trees overnight die. And we've learned a lot from watching them die about what to do. So anyway, we did another workshop. Partners are a big part of this. The question was asked, how do you get the word out? The more partners you have, the better off you have. The Woodstock Land Conservancy had held the easement on that 76 acres, the conservation easement. The next workshop, I said, come help us do this workshop. All the help I need is you do the advertisement to your members. Help us get it out there so it gets it to a larger number of people. Another partner gets involved. 2011, PRISM gets involved. They want to do a street inventory. I help them with the street inventory. On a Thursday evening, they came in with a PowerPoint, taught people things like, what does an ash tree look like? How do you identify one? So this is what they look like. This is why we want to do this. And we did an inventory of street trees. Then on also a little bit of GPS training. They had a grant, so they were able to, on Saturdays, set up in the center of town. People came, signed up, got an area of town that they were supposed to do, got a GPS handed to them. All the GPS things came back, by the way. Nobody walked off. Nobody got a free GPS out of it. They were all honest people who came. And so we did our inventory. 75 ash trees. This is Woodstock's thing. This is the Cuomo property. Some of them were on the driveway going up to the Cuomo property. There's a whole system of trails on the Cuomo property, so that was something that we also felt we were going to have to pay attention to at some point. So it gave a baseline, but we knew there were more trees potentially to be found. The other thing CRISP did with this was they presented their findings to the town board. Gave them all this stuff. This is what your street inventory looks like. They were doing that education of the town board. Environmental Commission also got involved with educating the town board on this. So we're moving on. Again, partnerships is the big thing. The more people involved, the better off we are, because then the town fathers are, the supervisor and the town councilman are aware of what we're talking about. They're on board with this. And so when the Environmental Commission is making recommendations, they're more apt to listen to the recommendations. So what happened as a result of this is we actually, CRISP helped us write a thing that was, had to do with the recommendations for a plan, which was many pages long, had lots of information. We passed it on to the town board, and the supervisor says, we're not going to pass a resolution this long, If you want a resolution, give us something short, And so we brought it down to a half a page, and they boiled it down to this right up here. Be it resolved to accept the recommendations of the Woodstock Environmental Commission and use a combination of strategies to mitigate the threat to public safety caused by the emerald ash borer. This devastation of trees, to wit, removal of affected and dying ash trees in the town ownership, treatment with insecticide of carefully selected trees whose continued existence is deemed in high public interest, and preemptive removal of trees in highly trafficked areas deemed to pose a threat. Okay? We were the first town in the state to have a plan. It's a brief plan, but this plan has been very effective. The next thing the Environmental Commission said was, look at that beautiful ash tree right outside the town offices, 36 inches dBA, look at it. You don't want that to come down, it would cost you too much. We chose triage, I call it that because saying methylbenzate always catches in my tongue. Basal injection, highly effective. A lot of people concerned about insecticides in Woodstock with good reason. Soil drenches can do other things, kill other things. This basically works. The major way it kills this thing is it's in that layer of the tree that they're eating. So there's little tiny larvae, and they're very small when they start eating, don't get any bigger. It kills some from eating of the leaves. The question that was raised before about them becoming immune, it's pretty tough because if they get a little bit of it, they lay the eggs, and if they lay the eggs in that tree, the eggs aren't going to go anywhere. So it really is very safe. It doesn't get into the ground. It stays in the tree. It stays there for a long time. So 36-inch dBA, $10 per inch. They accepted our recommendation and treated that tree. Well, of course, there are people saying, in this budget year, why you spend $300? Another opportunity for education. This is why we're doing it, and it became symbolic. That began to spread out to people saying, oh, maybe I should treat that beautiful ash tree in my yard. So in the community, people started treating ash trees. So it moved along, and there were recommendations, continued education, you know, removal of trees, treating trees, all that kind of stuff. The next thing we did was an inventory, which we got help also from DEC, who's been a good partner all along, PRISM, a bunch of local arborists. We had another little workshop. We walked around the Cuomo property, which is the 76-acre piece, along trails and heavily trafficked areas, found another 152 trees, recommended that 5 of them be treated this time. Big, beautiful trees, and oh, no problem. We should ask for 10 in retrospect. But the point is that the education, the getting partners in this, because the more partners you have, the more effective the education is what helps move the people with the purse strings. And so that's the most important part of the whole thing.
Okay. So moving it at the town level, probably a little bit easier than moving something at the county level. And so to start this process, again, this is all new to us. We knew that it had been around for probably 8 years, but as Jim mentioned, that chunk of Ulster County is definitely at the top third of that death curve, which you'll see some pictures of, but actually a couple here. So myself, I took the lead on putting together what I called like a draft emerald ash borer action plan, thinking of our county DPWs and the buildings and grounds for the county properties. And also the municipalities who, you know, they're in no better budget shape than the county is for this kind of work that nobody's budgeted for or planned on. And so this document is still in draft form. I'm happy to, actually I should, I'll put some cards up here. I have them somewhere here, which I'm happy to send to folks if you want them, this draft plan. But it basically makes the case that the point that was made earlier today is if you plan for it and do a little bit at a time, you're going to be ahead in the long run rather than wait and do nothing. And of course, it's been met, you know, with initial resistance, and I'm trying to continue to think of ways to revisit it with particularly the highway, the DPW. I'll give some examples quick. I know you can't read much of this, but maximize county resources, obviously. But the objective, assess the roadways, identify priority areas for tree removal. Hopefully there'll be some funding or something to do some preemptive removal. Implement a plan that best utilizes limited resources, and then the management of the felled ash once it's felled. There's this diagram here, and I know you probably can't read it, but I was thinking about doing some training of DPW and their tree crew. They do have, I think, 1 bucket truck. But protocol, ash ID, signs of EAB. Then I came up with this 3-tiered approach to do what I call windshield surveys. So not doing what you do on the street trees or what maybe you do for a community tree inventory like that you might apply for the urban and community forestry grant, but in the truck, driving. All right, there's an ash, there's an ash, there's an ash, there's an ash. What condition is it in? And I'll show you some pictures, but no visual evidence. Okay, it's an ash, but the bark looks fine. There's no blonding or woodpeckering. Then there's spotty, you know, so you see some, and then heavy woodpeckering, you know, where there's bark on the ground and, you know, the tree is like some of those in that previous picture. And, you know, even I was thinking of using GIS, so you have a spreadsheet in the car, and obviously interns would be a great way to do this, and we're working on doing that this coming year, is break county road segments down into chunks, manageable chunks, and then just while you're in the car, enter a number in the spreadsheet. You know, in this mile segment, you had 6 ash, and I've tried this with actually the regional forester after a workshop at your place, and on a 1.5 mile segment of county road, we counted. He had one side of the road, I had the other. I think in the end we had well over 60 ash that were along what we called along the road. You know, that would, if they fell, they would hit the road, and that's, you know, 1.5 mile area. So plan removal, and then management. Chunk up. Do you keep them in place? Do you chip and remove? A combination of that. So these are all these questions that I'm going to have answers to get the county DPW to commit to some of these things. And then, of course, all the time, ongoing coordination and management, looking for other opportunities, grants, partnerships, partnering with the electric company, NYSEG or Central Hudson. Maybe they can help if they're out there already. So thinking of those kind of things. And the task force is great at that. I won't spend too much time on this. How much time do we have left here? How many? Ooh, okay. I won't spend much time at all. But so these are these 3 tiers that I mentioned. Basically, no visual evidence, visual high but light but spotty, and then heavy woodpeckering. So the real easy piece here are the county parks. There's one on the Hudson called Sojourner Truth, which is actually adjacent to state land, Turkey Point State Forest. Again, there's a mile of trail on here, beaches, pavilions, all kinds of stuff. And then the state land has trails on it, but again, it's right in that black area where it's been hit heavy. And then down here at the county fairgrounds down near New Paltz, you'll see in the slide, I haven't even gone down there yet to look what's there. So at the park, we did some of this ash tagging. I saw you brought your trees. If you can get these from the DEC, they're great for education and outreach. So basically on this walking path here, I went and put a tag and a ribbon on here so people could learn about, yes, this is an ash tree and it's going to die. There's 2 right here by this trailhead in a parking lot. So I did that just a little bit. And then 2012, a year later, you know, the woodpecks start to show up. Here's the trail. There's a number of them here. Here's the big one, though. Clearly a gathering spot for folks. Right on the river, barbecue grills. These are all ash that I know you probably can't see it too well, but they're all dead trees with woodpecks. So the good news is those 11 of them have been removed preemptively by the county buildings and grounds folks. Additional surveys needed along some of the trails there. Question: what is the DEC going to do on their trails where they know there's ash? They're in the same boat as county government. Fairground stuff to do, but the good news is the buildings and grounds folks are aware of EAB and recognize that there's a problem, or they're going to have to do something. Here's the big one, though, of course. It's a big county, almost the size of Rhode Island. There's 2,225 miles of road, and then of course, DPW folks, you double that because you have eastbound, westbound, or northbound, southbound. 425 of those miles are county roads with a staff that when the positions retire, they don't get refilled. It's a non-mandated program. And so that's one of the first departments to be cut for budget things. So it's a big problem. And 800 additional miles of private roads and driveways. Here's that risk map. I superimposed. These are only roads in Ulster County, the white. And of course, where this core area, where it's heaviest and almost at the top of that death curve, highest concentration of roads, highest concentrations of people. That's the city of Kingston. Thankfully, there's not a lot of ash at street trees in Kingston. But you can see that there's going to be a lot of work to do. Here's just some, you know, I mean, just again, you drive down the roads in Jim's neck of the woods, and these trees are all over the place. Here's one from spring 2012. I didn't like that. I parked the county car here under the under the tree. But again, here it is in summer 2013. I mean, clearly that tree needs to be addressed. So to make our job a little bit easier, and maybe this, I think Andy had this slide up. This is the ash distribution map. There was a statewide zoom from U.S. Forest Service. I got some GIS data, raster data, played with it, or had a GIS intern play with it. So estimated basal area within Ulster County and ash distribution. And so the scale doesn't work. You can't really get too fine, but it just gives you a general sense that, okay, here's these red roads are what I called the tier 1 and tier 2 areas where these trees really are going to start coming down. Luckily, there's not a lot of ash, big ash anyway. Most of it is out here. Of course, it makes sense. Catskill Park, Catskill Forest Preserve, the ash that's there is going to be bigger. And then the distribution along roadways, again, you can see there's some there. But here's one down in the southern part of the county, wetter part of the county. It probably makes sense that there's a lot more ash down there. And those gray roads, these are only county roads that I put up here. So where to start? One of the things we wanted to do, and we're going to do again this year, is a workshop for highway managers. Mark was there, and Crisp, and I mentioned something about highway guys hearing from highway folks, and that was so key. I could have talked till I was blue in the face. Mark, I think as soon as Tom Story from the DOT stood up and said, we've preemptively removed, and you'll touch on this a little bit, X number of miles of road, and it costs this, they all listened. I mean, it just was hearing from their peer was so key that the DOT actually was able to do this. Over 20 people, 9 different municipalities. Town of Olive sent like 3 or 4 guys the next day. The next week they went out and I don't know if they just felt like cutting trees or what, but they went to the town park and cut the ash out, which was, might not have been that big of a threat. It was certainly in those risk areas, but and then Woodstock is about to do something else, right?
Interestingly enough, the educational piece to the town board and the town fathers really is starting to pay off in other ways. As you can see, we've got a fair amount of roads. So we had just done the thing with the ash inventory, getting some more trees treated. Again, reminding the town that, according to your plan, you said you were going to do this. This is how we want you to do it. 3 weeks ago, the town supervisor went to the highway superintendent and said, what are you doing about ash removals on roads where they're going to be a problem? And he said, oh, we ought to get on that. He called me up and said, Jim, would you take a ride with me? We'll go and start evaluating trees and start prioritizing the takedown and look at this kind of stuff. And it's crucial because in Xena, we have some of these trees that are at that stage where they're going to start falling on people's cars and stuff like that. So it works out. We don't have to beg for this. It's coming back at us because the plan's in place and people understand the plan. So that whole thing with the highway is really working. You can see we have a lot of roads here. One of the problems is that we have a lot of county roads in Woodstock. The state roads, Tom Story, who's the DOT guy for our area, really had a cushy thing because he was able to manage his budget and he decided this was a priority. He started in Saugerties. All the state roads coming through Saugerties, he removed the trees. And then he started to come to Woodstock. He went down 212 down into Woodstock, did all of 375. This year's plan was 28 and 212 out to where they meet. Halfway through it, there was a budget problem with the state, so it didn't get completed. But he was doing preemptive. County has not done much. On the way up, Aaron and I were talking about me going out just for informational reason and starting to put these on all the trees that present a danger to the county roads. So when those county guys are driving by there, they say, why are those trees being marked? And somebody maybe will say, oh, is that a liability if we don't deal with those? So maybe we can push it in another way. I'm going to try. And I'm going to, with the highway department, I'm going to try to, you know I'm going to get the ones on ours. Other things we're doing, we're looking ahead. I convinced one of the town board members to go to a workshop with me, Mars B seed collection workshop. And he and I became seed collectors because it's important to have seeds from your geographical area. And we were able to do a seed collection on that town Cuomo property. And so we now have seeds in the seed bank from the Cuomo property, which is an important part of the long range thing, you know. I once saw something about a society is measured, the greatness of a society is measured by old men who are willing to plant trees that they'll never sit under the shade of. And I say, well, I'm old enough to do that. So, seed collection, important part. Ongoing education. You can't quit with the education. My face has become so familiar to it. I went out to get my mail yesterday and some guy stopped and said, hey, I want to know something about the green bugs. You know? So ongoing. I have been pushing through PRISM to get some of our sites added to the parasitic, you know, those wasps. It's very funny, I went to a release of these wasps and some people say, oh, wasps, are they going to hurt you? And they were getting out the wasps and I said, where are the wasps? And they said, in here. And I said, are you sure? These things are so small, they're smaller than a flea, you can hardly see them. They are absolutely tiny little things. And they're the ones that go into the tree and eat and feed on those little larvae. So it's a very fascinating thing. So I want to get that done as well. So treat some trees, get some seeds, try to get the parasitic growth, try to look down. So Mark's vision that he said at the beginning of the day is one that in our small way, in our small community, we can start adding to that vision and help make that vision come true. If anybody wants a few of these yellow tags to use for educational stuff, I've got about 50 of them with me, so come see me. It's up to you.
Thank you, Jim. All right, I'll bring us home. So, looking ahead from the county, I mean, again, the importance of the task force, and you know, in looking at, all right, yeah, here's X number of dollars. Can you do this again? What should the scope of work be? And it's, you know, I know I spent more time than I was supposed to, and will again, because it's important. It's very important because these municipalities don't have the resources. The county doesn't. The people don't know about it. Like you said, these green bugs, and you know, it's been there for years. And not everybody has a gym. Not every Woodstock, not every municipality has a gym or will have a gym, and yours won't either. So there is an important task force component, even a municipal county government perhaps component to this. The municipal support and that education. The first, you know, CRISP, as Jim mentioned, took the inventory data, went to the different municipalities and presented it, and nothing ever happened. So it takes someone at that level that's dedicated and passionate enough to do it and you know, hold that torch, keep it going, and hopefully I'm able to keep Jim going and find other gyms. So the windshield survey, it looks like we'll have the opportunity to assess 100 miles of the county roads in that, really the top of that death curve area. And really there is to find the worst of the worst, I think, and hopefully that there's some way to find some money to do it. It's certainly the feedback I've gotten from the DPW is it won't be them doing the work, so they're going to have to hire, you know, contract it out, just as what the DOT did. Maybe they started some of it, but it was, you know, which again, that cost goes way up too. There's just no dollars or manpower to do that. This one I like. I'm hoping it's going to work, and there'll be money through CRISP to do it. The county has a quasi-agency, a resource recovery agency, quasi-county agency, has a big horizontal grinder that you need a semi to pull. And my thought was, if we can cover the cost to run that for a day or 2 or 3 at different spots, maybe DPWs would be able to bring their material and incentivize them to go harvest, manage the material, bring it to that spot, and then it can be disposed of at no cost. Continue to do more workshops. There'll be a number of them coming for down in the county, and really trying to reach into that other part of the county, because you know, the other half of the county isn't, they're kind of like where a lot of you are here, where you know it's coming. The other half of the county, it's there, and it's been there, and it's going to be a mess. And so it's important to keep that, to find out what they know about EAB and what they might be able to help with, you know, in the Marlboroughs and the town of Lloyds and New Paltz's and down there. And then, of course, finalize that action plan. And I took a lot of notes and a lot of discussions with Jim to take what's up here in his mind and put it here digitally, that it can be incorporated and used as a template for other municipalities to go ahead with. So here's our contact information. I left my cards up here. That's Jim's info. I'll put this back, but and then that's it.